On September 25th, there is a new moon in Libra, and it is making an exact opposition to Jupiter. Now, this can bring you luck, opportunities, a way to expand, or it can make you self-indulgent and not want to do anything. Which is it going to be? That's what we're going to talk about. Hi everyone, I'm Donna Stellhorn, your practical astrologer, here to talk to you today about the new moon. It's at 2 degrees of Libra. We're going to do a short overview and then we're going to go sign by sign. So every month we talk about the new moon, but I don't know if we've really defined it. And so the new moon happens in astrology when the moon exactly reaches the sun. So it is then balsamic before that period, and then in the new moon period after it makes that exact conjunction. So new moons happen about every 28 days. There are 8 phases of the moon, and so the phase right before the new moon is called the balsamic moon. And then once the new moon happens, then we're in the new moon period. That lasts for about 3.5 days. During this 3.5 days, this is a real seed planting time. Now, it's seed planting in the very traditional sense where you plant the seeds and you have no idea whether something is going to sprout. And so this is a time where you want to try new things, meet new people, like try new food, try new toothpaste, like try anything that's different so that you are planting seeds. But you're not going to know what those seeds are doing on that project for sometimes a really long time if it's a very big project, or at least you're going to have to wait a week or so to see what is going to manifest. The new moon is followed by the crescent moon. This is another period that lasts for about 3.5 days. In the crescent moon, there is that point where you are working to overcome something about yourself, and that might be overcoming procrastination, overcoming hesitation, overcoming self-doubt. So you've got the seed planted, it hasn't sprouted yet, and you're wondering, am I going the right direction? Am I doing the right thing? And so this is where you have to find where you need to trust yourself or where you need to say, okay, that wasn't the right seed. What else can I plant? So what else can I do? Or what can I do to make sure that that seed does germinate? So such as if you met somebody new during this second part, that 3.5 days, then you might want to phone them or text them or do something to establish the connection. Then a week after the new moon, we come into the first quarter moon. So the first quarter moon is you against the world. And so there is this energy of having to say, all right, world, now I've got some sprouts. Now I know what I'm doing. So I want to now tell the world about it. And so this is that you might tell your other friends that you met this new person, or that you have been thinking about starting a business, or that you tried this new toothpaste and it's amazing. So this is where you start to talk to other people. Now, because other people can have a variety of opinions, you may get some people who are very supportive of what you're doing and some people who are not. And so that is the natural growth of telling people, risking somebody maybe disapproving of the direction you're going or telling you you're going the wrong direction, and then you have to go back within to decide, am I doing the right thing or do I need to listen to this person? This is also the chance where you look at all of the things that you have started on the new moon and see what is starting to thrive. And that is, maybe you started a bunch of new projects and yet you can't do all of these things. And so this is the time where you might be thinning out the little plants and saying, okay, we can't have too many plants crowded together. They won't have enough resources. And that would be, in your case, time, energy, money. And so what do I want to concentrate on? And so that is also done during that first quarter moon. And then 3.5 days after that, then comes the gibbous moon. This is the 3.5 days that are after the first quarter, but before the full moon. The gibbous moon is the moon of the student. And this is where you take all the things that you learned and you start to process those and you figure out what else you need to learn. And so you say to yourself, okay, what did I learn about the seeds that I planted? What did I learn about myself in this process? What did I learn about how the outside world world would react about it. And so you are gathering together all the lessons and processing those. At the same time, during the gibbous moon, you are getting ready for the highest amount of energy. This is where now you've thinned out the crops, and now what is going to get the most time, most energy, most resources from you? That is the full moon time. So this whole process takes about 2 weeks, and so this is the 2 weeks that we see from that new moon chart. And then we'll talk about what the energy is like from the full moon to the balsamic moon, or full moon literally to the new moon, when we talk about the full moon. Now, this particular new moon is Libra, and Libra is cardinal air. Air is one of the 4 elements. There's earth, air, fire, and water. And so air is about intellect, communication, and connections. And so this is cardinal air, so this is actively connecting. And so when you think of the sign of Libra, think about it as kind of like a tennis game. And that is, there can't be a tennis game if you don't hit the ball back. So the Libra energy says, how are you doing? And then they're expecting a response, which the other person then hits the ball back and says, I'm fine, how are you? And now a conversation and a connection is forming. And that's the basis of Libra energy. It is that you do something, and then there is a reaction out in the world, and then you respond to that reaction, and so forth. And that's what creates the connection. This is why a lot of times when people have Libra moon, Libra rising, or Libra sun, they really think, oh, if I was in a partnership, starting a business or in a relationship, things would go better, because they're looking for someone to react to what they say so that they can then say, okay, I just heard you say that I'm going to do this. Now I'm thinking, is this a good idea? Is this not a good idea? And a conversation happens. So Libras do well having one-on-one connections like this. So, and it could be a friendship too, just someone that you trust that can be your sounding board. So, but this is why, because it's cardinal air, and so it's expecting that when the Libra energy puts out something, that there is some sort of reaction or response, and then when you get that, then you can react to that, and so forth, and that's how the game is played. Now, there's one other thing about Libra in particular, and that is it's the scales. And so a lot of things are about balance, and that means that one of the players can't spike the ball because then the other player can't hit it. And so there is this energy of it has to be balanced in some way. And so the balance could be that we're on equal footing, or that we have assigned roles, like I'm the teacher, you're the student, or vice versa. So there we see some balance. Now, the balance comes into play too if all of the responses that the Libra gets are one direction. So that is, if somebody comes to you and you are doing this Libra energy, or you have Libra in your chart, and they say, oh, everything's going to be so great. It's going to be the most fantastic. There's nothing that could go wrong. The balance says, uh-oh, we better tell this person we're seeing maybe there could be some challenges on the way. That is just happens for the balance. So even if somebody says something as simple as, oh my gosh, the sky is perfectly blue today, it is blue from horizon to horizon, then the Libra energy might say, oh no, there's some white clouds there, and oh, it's a little darker over there. They're bringing in the contrast because the balance is needed. So if you're talking to a person who has strong Libra, or during this 2-week period when everybody's doing Libra, notice how people jump in to help try to find the balance. Now, here comes the opposition to Jupiter. Jupiter, the largest planet in the solar system, rules expansion. So we often use that shorthand that Jupiter brings luck, and it does. But luck can, there can be sometimes too much of a good thing. So what can happen is that you expand so much in some areas that you bite off more than you can chew, that, there's too many little plants to tend. And so you can't tend all of those little seedlings, and so some perish. Or you have so many opportunities, you have to say no to somebody. So many people to go out with that you have to turn somebody down. So it is all of that. But also, because Jupiter is lucky, sometimes it feels like you don't have to do anything at all. And this can lead to complacency, a sense of entitlement, or just feeling like you can wait. Because if opportunity after opportunity is coming in, you can kind of sit back and go, yeah, I don't have to do anything right now. And then what's happening is actually you're missing an opportunity. So be a little bit careful as all of these different things come in, that one, you don't get overwhelmed, but two, that you don't just say, well, so much is coming in, I don't really have to respond. I don't really have to do anything, because this is Libra energy, and so a response is required. So as we look at this opposition over the next 2 weeks, know that as you put out some energy into the world's going to respond, but the world might respond with something very big. Like, you say, hey, maybe we could do an interview sometime. And they say, yes, and I'll put you on major television. You're like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I'm ready for that. So it could be an overwhelmingly big response. It could be that the response is, yes, I will put you on a channel for this, but we also need to do interviews on this and this and this and this and this. And so they're saying, now we have many, many, many things to do. So that can be the response. And then your response back to that is either to say, okay, I'm going to choose which of these things that I want to do. Or you may say, oh, I have so many opportunities, I don't have to do anything. And then all of those opportunities dry up and blow away because you just waited too long. So this is what this opposition is about, is because Libra is also about making a decision. And when you make a decision, it means that something has to be left behind. You have to take those little seedlings and decide what is going to stay and what's going to go. And so as you are receiving these opportunities that are going to come in over this next 2 weeks, be very conscious about making some decisions about what you want to focus on and what you are going to say. Either we have to do this later, or you have to let it go. Decisions are hard. I know. I definitely struggle with decisions. I have my entire life. It is one of the reasons I'm an astrologer, is because I wanted a way to look at decisions and really help myself, weigh the choices. And so, but astrology sometimes doesn't help when I have multiple things I'm trying to decide, and that's where I use the tarot. And so if you have ever been interested in the tarot, using it for decision making or personal insight, or to start a business where you're helping others, I now have a course, a video course on how to read the tarot. And my method of reading the tarot is where you actually get into the card, talk to the characters in the card, really interact with the scene that's going on. And that means that you know what's happening, what the messages are, without having to memorize a book or try to figure out some complex, little code or anything. So this tarot program, there's a link in the description. There's a few videos there that you can see, and then you can decide for yourself. But I hope you check that out. I also write columns for astrology.com and horoscope.com. And and I have a course called Finding the Hidden Money in Your Chart. That's an astrology course. And I also do readings. And so if you are interested, you can let me know. Again, all the links are in the description. And just to let you know, we are doing tropical Western astrology. If you will listen to your rising sign, you're going to get a fuller picture of what's really going to be happening. If you don't know your rising sign, listen to your sun sign. That's going to tell you a lot of the things that you should be working on during this 2-week period. And if you would like a copy of your chart, you can send me your birth information. Again, the link is in the description. All right, let's go sign by sign. Okay, Aries, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of relationships, partnerships, and collaborations. This is also work-life balance. And this is doing that opposition to Jupiter. And so you might find that a lot of people ask favors of you or make assumptions about your generosity. And so try not to let that get you upset. You also want to watch in case you're doing the same thing to them in a way that you might not feel you're doing it, and but they do, and vice versa. So the Jupiter here, this connection, the positive manifestation of this is it could bring you somebody who is really worthwhile to connect with, and that could be for a love relationship as well as any sort of partnership. But it also can make that relationship a little out of balance. And so because the Jupiter is so powerful, it can swing things in another direction. And so watch out for that, because when you do an opposition, you can be the Jupiter sometimes, or they can be the Jupiter sometimes. Like it'll go back and forth, like we slide back and forth on this kind of seesaw. So additionally, this is about work-life balance. So again, it's so easy these days to get, consumed by something. And so watch out for where you're not finding balance. And that can be in the time you're spending, but also how much you're thinking about something or how much you're paying attention to something. Remember that old adage that whatever you put your attention on expands. And so if you're putting your attention on scarcity, that's going to expand. But if you put your attention on the abundance of the universe, then that expands. Now, also we see that Mercury retrograde has now slipped into your house of routines, health and well-being, and your daily life. And so you might be looking at how efficient you are, what your productivity level is, what you can delegate or eliminate. Also, maybe you're doing some decluttering of your diet or your home. So this is about taking a look at a minute level at your daily routines and seeing what you can tweak. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the sun's not making an aspect to Mars. And so the energy here is, well, it's very focused on relationships. You seem to be focused on people you know already. So it may be challenging right now to meet new people. Now that could mean that you are just meeting people from your past, or maybe you crossed by their profile once before and you had a short conversation, but you never met, but this is mostly pulling from the pool of people you already know rather than meeting somebody brand new. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, even though Mars is not making an aspect with Venus, you have that new moon in that house. Plus, you have the Mercury retrograde very, very close to that house. And the Jupiter's in the first house. It goes on and on, right? So this means that existing relationship energy is very strong. But because you're not making an aspect, you might find it a little challenging to get through some of the disagreements, or maybe you need to find a way to compromise with each other. Now, sometimes, Aries, you can just blast through things. You're so quick to take action, which is wonderful in a lot of cases, but sometimes it is before the other person could make up their mind or have a discussion with you. So just kind of keep an eye on that. Now, when it comes to home and family, there's nothing going on in that house. Mars is not making an aspect to the moon. And so therefore, what we're seeing is that mostly it's talking about relationships, but not necessarily so much about your dwelling or what's going on with family and extended family. Now, Mars is going to be going through your house of siblings, it is going through your house of siblings, and it's going to be there for a long time. This house also rules neighbors, and so there's some things that are like on the periphery. But what's going on at home looks pretty peaceful right now, and so I think you have a quiet time at home. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Venus in your house of work, daily routines, productivity, efficiency. And so the more money is made through making yourself more productive. So if you found that that, you have all these wonderful ideas, but you're not implementing them, that, days go by, between the time you work on your website and then when you get back to it. Or if you feel just stuck in some place, sometimes the cure for that is just saying, you know what, I'm going to just do this badly and do a first draft. I do that a lot, where I say, I'm just going to get something on paper, and then from there, as you start to edit it, it gets better and better, which is perfect for this Venus in Virgo right now. So right now, you make more money when you look at productivity, efficiency, and look at where you're procrastinating and see if you can find a remedy for that. Now, when it comes to money from traditional investments or money from your business, Venus is making a trine to Pluto, and so you have really good opportunities to make more money than usual in this area. That might mean your investments are starting to pay off, or you may find some great investment to start into that pops up right away. Your business looks like it's expanding. And again, as you add productivity and streamline your operations, then you can make more money per hour, even if you are not having a lot more clients because you're working less hours. And so you look like you're making more money over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to working for somebody else, so money derived from your career, Venus is not making an aspect to Uranus. We still have Saturn in that house. And so most of this is indicating that if you ask for a raise right now, they're just going to give you more work. And so if you make more money by working more hours, then yes, you'll make some more money. But for the most part, they're not going to give it to you without some sort of strings attached. So you may want to wait until this energy lines up better in the future. And then finally, when we look at risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Venus is not making an aspect to the sun. And so there is right now a kind of a disconnect between what you're putting out there in the way of energy and focus and work, and what you're receiving. So it's probable that you're just doing a lot of upfront stuff, or you're doing a lot on spec, and it just hasn't paid off yet. Now, because that seventh house is so strong, you do want to use that energy to put out the words, and it's possible you're waiting until Mercury goes direct before you do a big marketing campaign. That makes total sense. But you can do some sort of soft launch or market research or things like that while Mercury is retrograde, while you're doing this new moon energy in your seventh house, the house of other people. And so I see you as still working pretty much behind the scenes, but right now, the money that's out there hasn't made it into your account yet. Okay, Taurus, you guys have this new moon falling in your house of routines, work, co-workers, interaction with your daily life, basically, like how you do everything in your daily life. And this is making that opposition to Jupiter in your 12th house, which is very much like having a guardian angel on your shoulder. And so that is that a role of a guardian angel in this case is kind of like plucking you out of disaster. And so if the angel sees that you're heading towards something that's going to be problematic for you, it will put obstacles in your way. And so it's not so much that an angel appears, but more that you can't get to the thing you want to get to. And so therefore you don't run into the traffic jam or the other problem. So this is also, though, because that Jupiter is in the 12th house. 12th house is about escapes and, watching too much television, eating too much sugar. And so there is a desire maybe not to do so much work and, do stuff that you're supposed to do, but instead, you find a TV program you really like and you want to watch all the episodes, or you are doing something else that is creating this sort of desire to escape. And Jupiter just expands that. So you just want to keep an eye on that. The Libra says have some balance, but I know balance is hard. And so, that pendulum swings from one side to the other, and you're doing too much of something, and then you're just right, and then you're doing too much of something. So that's that swing of the pendulum. And so this is very much about watching out for that indulgent behavior because this can be a really productive time for you. I should say also too, with that Jupiter in your 12th house, it's very helpful to do any sort of spiritual rituals. So that means lighting candles, doing prayer, affirmations, doing feng shui. Those can be very effective right now. So if this is something you've done in the past and you've kind of fallen off doing it, this is a good time to get back to it. Or it might be something that you're starting out. Now, also we see that Mercury now has dropped into your 5th house, and that means that that is about risk-taking, adventure, pleasure, romance, etc. So you have some possibilities there. Now, it is, of course, in Virgo when it's in this house for you, and that means that sometimes you get in your own way because you overanalyze or you overthink stuff. So just look for some opportunities to go have some fun. Maybe you passed up these opportunities in the past, and so now they are going to be back, and it's probably time for you to go have some fun. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Venus is making a conjunction to Mercury, and they're in that house. So this is one of your best opportunities for finding new love. And because that Mercury is retrograde, these two planets are coming together. The connection is getting tighter and tighter. So really take this opportunity. If you're looking for love, go put yourself into groups of people where you can meet new people. Tell your friends and family you want to meet someone, put your online profile up or update the profile you have up, but do something with this energy because it is so positive. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Venus is making a trine to Pluto, and this means that you have a great deal of energy, positive energy behind making up or figuring things out or strengthening the relationship. And so that means that you can look at your situation and say, oh, is there a different way for me to explain what I need? Or am I hearing them only in one way? You know, is there another way to look at what they're saying or hear what they're saying? So, you know, this is your opportunity to strengthen this relationship or to take an existing relationship to the next level. And that might be living together or getting engaged or even getting married. Now, when it comes to home and family, the sun's not making an aspect with Venus. And so now we have energy that is much quieter. There is a little bit of activity in that house of children, but basically that's because they're busy. Maybe they're in school, you know, maybe older kids are getting a job, but this is pretty quiet at home. And even if it's noisy at home, there's not much you can do to affect it. So that is, your attention is elsewhere. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Mercury, which is retrograde, heading towards Venus. It is in a house that talks about creativity and taking risks. And so you have an opportunity that maybe you passed up in the past, or maybe it's something you've been working on and you just haven't finished. And now you have the energy and the opportunities to finish this thing or to get this going for the first time, but it's coming around the second time. Wow, that was a convoluted sentence. What I mean is the Mercury retrograde has brought it back to you, and maybe you passed it up in the past, but now you have another chance at it. So this is something where you really want to pay attention, because if you passed it up in the past, you probably had a good reason for doing so. And so, but now maybe external circumstances have changed, or maybe you have changed. And so you want to look at these opportunities again. Now, when it comes to your money from your business or from investments, there is an opposition going on between Jupiter and Mercury, but it's out of sign. So the investment opportunities aren't so obvious, or the business opportunities aren't so clear cut, but there's really a way to make more money over this 2-week period. You're just going to have to search for it and, you know, be aware of the possibilities, you know. So it's kind of like maybe somebody wants to buy a discontinued product from you and you have some in the warehouse. Or maybe it is a time for you to diversify your portfolio in some different directions, and that causes you to discover some money-making opportunities. So this is an out-of-sign opposition that you're doing. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, that would be like a paycheck. Mercury is making an opposition to Neptune. And so there is a definite opportunity for you to make more money, whether that is from more hours. This could be a pay increase, though, or some sort of bonus or increased commission. So definitely want to sit down with your supervisor, especially if you have before. This would be the continuation because Mercury is retrograde. So you want to not introduce it as brand new, but say, hey, we were talking a couple of months ago about this, or we talked last week about this. And so let's talk about it one more time to make sure that no stone's left unturned in how much money you can get. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. You have great energy here because that retrograde Mercury is moving back to conjunct Venus, and Venus is your chart ruler. So you have really great energy going on. The Mercury retrograde says something is coming back, and so you need to rethink it again and say, oh, maybe you passed up this investment before, or maybe you have to send them back the contract with a few changes, and then they send it back to you, and now it can be signed, even though you don't want to sign a big contract during Mercury retrograde in general. So, but you want to look at some ways that you might be dabbling in some things that are riskier. Of course, you don't only risk money that you can afford to lose in this category. So that might be just small amounts to help you diversify your portfolio. So, but you are doing good energy, and so you could have a win in the next 2 weeks. Okay, Gemini, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of romance and adventure. It's also creativity, children, fertility, as well as taking risks. And this is making that opposition to Jupiter in your house of friendships and community. And so really what's happening here is if you can give yourself a wider audience, you have more opportunities to make friends and find romance in the process. It is also saying that all of the things that you're looking for fun and pleasure and creativity can come through your community. And so that is finding like-minded people, finding groups and organizations that do the things that you like to do. And that might be getting together online or even in person. So this new moon also brings some new energy for your kids, or if you are looking for fertility energy, this could work very well for that too. Now, with that opposition to Jupiter, you can be overly idealistic and think that everything's going to work out and really, really quickly. And sometimes things take a lot longer than that. And so that's where you can get a little just not maybe taking the action you could because you're thinking, oh, I go to one group and then I'm going to meet friends, I'm going to meet a lover, etc. Whereas maybe you have to go to many groups to do that. This is a time to just start doing that, start that process, plant some seeds, and see what grows from it. Now, Mercury is still retrograde, of course, and it's gone back into your house of home and family. And so there are a few things to take care of there, but it also may try to pull you back home. And that means you're not going out and meeting groups. You're not, socializing. And so that's a little bit of the danger, that there's stuff going on at home that needs your attention, but you have to balance this energy with getting out there in the world as well. All right, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, I have nothing but good news for you because you have the new moon there doing that opposition to Jupiter, which is lovely. And then Mercury is making a conjunction to Venus. And because Mercury is retrograde, it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. That's fantastic. So this is, if you're looking for love, this is the time to be out there. This is the time to tell friends and family that you want them to fix you up with someone. This is a time to update your profile, put pictures up, etc., because you could meet somebody over the next 2 weeks and have that blossom into love. So this is a great time, so you want to take advantage of it. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Mercury's making an opposition to Jupiter, but it is an out-of-sign opposition. And so an out-of-sign opposition means it's not so straightforward, it's not so clear-cut, and that means that the issue that your partner says is bothering him isn't really the issue. There's something else. Or the thing that you think is bothering you, if you look deeper, it's something else. And so you want to look deeper. You want to see what's not obvious. Maybe maybe when they get upset, they're saying they're upset about something, but it's always connected to something that happened earlier that day, etc. So this is the idea of just looking at what's underneath or behind the curtain, and then you're going to see what the real problem is. And then with this energy, you can work it out. That's the good part of this energy, is that you can find a compromise, that you can see each other's position, you can switch sides and be empathetic, be in the other person's shoes and so forth. So good energy, but it's going to take a little bit of effort. Now, when it comes to home and family, it is that Mercury retrograde conjunct the Venus. Lovely connection there. So it looks like somebody's coming home, somebody's coming back, or you are traveling to somebody and you haven't seen in a while. So there's like some sort of a reunion happening. Now, there is a possibility that something that was repaired now needs repair again, but it looks like you either have a warranty on it, so it's not going to cost you anything, or the person figures it out right away and it wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be. So what's going wrong at the house works out in your favor. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that moon, which is in your house of creativity. It's making that opposition to Jupiter. So this is that if you're saying, okay, I want money, there are tons and tons of opportunity because Jupiter expands your opportunities. And that means you just have to step out, go see people, do some marketing, just even do a visualization. And then you're going to find that you have money opportunities coming in. So fantastic. So the challenge is that sometimes the Jupiter can become so complacent because things happen really easily. So like you do one meditation and you get some clients and then you forget to do the meditation again, then you forget to talk to the universe again. So, or you can get the most negative side of this would be a jealousy thing where you say, oh, they have it so easy. This other person, all they have to do is think about it and they get a bunch of clients, or, they have a bigger support system or something. And yet, if you're seeing that because it's opposition, it can flip. And that means that you have to remember that a lot of people are maybe feeling jealous of you and your position and your skill set and your connections, etc. So it's just a matter of not going into the negative side of this aspect, but staying on the positive and recognizing that if you put out that call through marketing or visualization or just phoning people up, you are going to receive an answer, and that is people are going to come to you. Now, when it comes to your money from your business or traditional investments, the moon is making a sesquiquadrate to Saturn, and that is a challenging aspect. And it says if you go do the hard thing, then you get the profits. And so think of whatever it is that is challenging. This may involve paperwork, contracts, taxes, regulations. It's something about sitting down where you have to really think things through, or maybe, translate some legalese or something like that. But you have to work at this. And when you do, that's when you get the rewards. So that opposition to Jupiter is going to tempt you not to work at this. But that's where the opportunity is if you go towards the harder thing to do. So, and that's up to you whether you want to do that. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, which is like a paycheck, even though the moon's not making an aspect to Mars, Mars is in your own sign, Mars is in your first house, all of that's good. Jupiter and the moon are making an opposition, and Jupiter is in Aries, which rules that Mars in Gemini. So like everything's kind of connected, even though you're not doing a direct connection. And that means that if you talk to your supervisor, then they have to go talk to somebody who talks to somebody, but you could get a positive answer. So while this isn't lining up so perfectly, I still think that this is a good time to go ask, especially if you have asked in the past and they had said, oh, yes, you get one, but not yet. This is a time to check in and say, okay, you said before it was too soon. How about now? Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. You have a strong house because the new moon is in that house. So that says something new is happening. But Venus is making a conjunction to the Mercury retrograde, which says it's something old is happening, something from the past. So how do we combine that? And that is when you had looked at something from the past and now it's different enough that it maybe has a new name, maybe has a new like CEO, or it has a new way they do it. Something has changed about it to bring the newness, but it's still familiar. And so that's the basically where the good investment or direction is. If you're thinking about launching, yes, it's the new moon, but you have the conflict of the retrograde Mercury. So that's where it's kind of like maybe do a soft launch at best, maybe not, put the whole novel out there, but maybe do like a video trailer of it and announce that it's going to be published outside the retrograde period. So, or, again, always with risky investments, do really small investments just to test the marketplace, just to test the waters, and don't invest money you can't afford to lose, because this is the risky investment section. Okay, Cancer, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of home and family. And then, of course, it's making that opposition to Jupiter right at the top of your chart in your house of career, social status, and reputation. And so there is a lot of stuff here going on maybe about home. And so is it that you're doing something new in the home, somebody's moving out or somebody's moving in, or maybe you're even thinking that it's kind of time to be looking at whether you're going to stay in this home. But there's an awful lot of energy also going on in your career. And so that, of course, could affect how you deal with things at home. Maybe you're being called back into the office, or maybe you are looking for another job. Now this opposition says that you have enormous opportunities in these areas. That means that if you need a new home, you can find it. If you want another job, you can get it. So, but it also says don't be too complacent about it. So don't just say, oh, there's lots of jobs available, and so looking at just one or two when there are so many different types of jobs that you could get. Or the same thing with the home options and looking at different options for you and your family. Now, also this says, make sure that you are promoting yourself, that you are putting your best foot forward, but not being overly modest about it. So that means when you're writing your bio, when you're doing your resume, to really be truthful about your achievements and pull things from the past. Fourth house, where that new moon is oftentimes about the past. And so looking at your past achievements, what are the skills that you had in the past, especially those all-important people skills, that is going to be so useful nowadays. You may not have all the tech skills, it's hard for all of us to keep up with all the tech skills, but if you have people skills, that's going to go a very long way to help you find the house that you want and find the career that you want. Now, Mercury is still retrograde, but it's gone back into your house of contracts and agreements. This means that a contract you've been waiting for may now come around, and this gives you some time to look it over before you sign it. Also, this is some interaction with siblings or cousins or, relatives who are around the same age as you are, as well as something to do with your neighbors. So if something good was going on with your neighbors before, then something good can happen. But if you've been having some difficulties, this gives you another opportunity to straighten that out. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the moon's making a trine to Pluto. So this is a great opportunity for you to meet somebody new. Now, it's interesting because the new moon is in your fourth house. So this might mean that you're meeting them through family or extended family. So this might be someone that your uncle knows, or that your sister introduces you through their friends. So there's that. But also this says that it might be a person from your neighborhood, somebody that you are close to in proximity versus somebody who lives, halfway across the country. This is also a time where that Jupiter is very elevated in your chart, and so you want to be out there doing social things. So that is, if you get invited to a party, you might want to attend. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the moon's making a sesquiquadrate to Saturn. Now, sesquiquadrate is a difficult aspect because it's a minor aspect, and so we don't run into it very often. And I would say it's kind of like, exactly like a semi-square and a square combined. So in other words, you're going to feel a little bit like you need to take some sort of action when it comes to your love relationship. And this can feel like a compulsion, which often means that you're falling into some sort of habit from the past. Now, it is that maybe there's something that really irritates you about your partner, and now is the time to talk to them about it, but not when you're ready to blow up, but perhaps to use this energy to kind of dissipate this, to maybe see why they're doing it this way. What is it about it that bothers you so much? What is really the core issue here? Is this related to something else? So with the sesquiquadrate, you do want to take some sort of action, even if that is to talk to a friend about it or to journal about it. But ultimately, you're going to come together with your partner to work something out. Now, when it comes to home and family, even though there's no aspect between the moon and Venus, this is a pretty busy area of your life because it is where the new moon is. So something is beginning there. Now, it's possible that there's a lot of things going on in the household that don't directly involve you. And so maybe that is some construction in the neighborhood that's causing some noise. And so you could be affected, but you may not be able to affect it externally. Or, your kids have a new schedule and your partner is coming and going, etc. So it's possible that it's just a lot of activity there, but it also is that you have the opportunity to start something new. And so that can be a new routine. So it could be redecorating, refreshing something, or even something like starting a business or starting a new job where you work at home. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that sun, which is making that brilliant opposition to Jupiter right in your house of career. So this is a lot of prospects right now for you to make more money. Now, this means that some of the ideas might be ones that you incorporate family members into, like doing a family business, or maybe the home is your home base for this. So, but it also does need to extend outward because the Jupiter is your most elevated planet right now. And so that says that you are showing the world what you can do. Now, when it comes to money from traditional investments or your own business, the sun is doing a sesquiquadrate to Uranus. So you just heard me talk about the sesquiquadrate, how it can be a challenging aspect unless you take action. And even then, you're going to find the process rather irritating. So look at what aspect of your business is the thing that you are procrastinating on, the thing you're avoiding, the thing you find irritating, and see what you can do about it, because that is your source of money. Now, that might be that you are dealing with back office stuff to streamline the process of, so your customers can order. Maybe it is dealing with a very difficult client. So maybe it's looking at your investments and taking all of the time and trouble to maybe move investments from one broker to another, or to make some other shift. Now, I can hear you guys saying, I don't know if I want to do that during Mercury retrograde, and I totally understand, but Mercury is only retrograde until October 2nd, so you may do all the planning up until then and then implement this. But there is something that is a source of money for you, but it's on the other side of something that's irritating, and so you go through that door, and that's where the money is. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so that's like a paycheck, the sun's not making an aspect with Venus. These two are going to line up later, but right now they are not, and so this is not necessarily the best time to be asking for a raise. And so while we do see a lot of possibilities for you, even getting a new job or getting a promotion, you're not actually receiving the money probably in this 2-week period. So I see you making about the same as usual. And if you are hourly, you may not be working quite as many hours, and so you may be making a little bit less. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. The sun is making a trine to Pluto, which is a very good aspect. And so you do have some opportunities here, and maybe you are getting ready to, launch your album or your book into the world, Perhaps you are getting ready to sign some contracts to buy a franchise. Maybe you are looking to get into some more exotic investments and things like that. Mercury is still retrograde until October 2nd, so at the beginning of this 2-week period, you really want to focus on research. And then after Mercury is gone direct, whatever problems or hurdles that Mercury was going to show you, Mercury should be done showing you those, and then you can move forward on things. Of course, this is the category for risky investments, and so if you are actually investing money rather than your time, make sure that this is money you can afford to lose. So because a trine like this can give you a lot of confidence, but you want to make sure that you understand the downside before you invest your money. Okay, Leo, you guys are doing this new moon in your area of communication, thinking process, also personal dexterity. We don't talk about that very often. This is your vehicle as well as neighbors and siblings, and it's making that opposition to Jupiter in your house of education, travel, legal matters, and publishing. And so I know that was a mouthful. And so what's going on here is there is some new way that you're thinking, and that's wonderful. When you can step outside of your normal routines and take a look at how you are communicating with yourself, you can make major changes in your life, by looking, are you using language that's very negative? Are you using language that's based on scarcity? Are you catastrophizing? Everything is happening to you. And shifting language can make a huge difference, not just in your mental process, but also in your physiology. Now, the opposition to Jupiter is bringing you a lot of opportunities for things like travel, like education. It feels like you're getting a ton of information. Whatever the information that you need, you're getting it, and then some, which then you have to kind of sort through it. So, but this could bring an opportunity to go someplace, so this might be some inexpensive tickets. This can help you in a legal matter because you can find out the information that you need to move forward. And this can help you in relationships with neighbors and siblings. Now, if you've been thinking about getting a new car because the new moon is there in the third house, you might want to draw out the negotiations until Mercury is direct. So, and this might be to go to some different dealerships, drive some different cars, etc. And Mercury will be direct on October 2nd, and then you can move forward. If you, of course, absolutely need a car, I totally understand getting it on Mercury retrograde. Just see if it's possible to get some sort of warranty, some sort of guarantee, just in case the extra repairs are needed, or, and keep an eye on the paperwork because paperwork can get lost during Mercury retrograde. And so speaking of Mercury retrograde, Mercury is now back in your house of money, asking you to take a look at how you keep track of your finances, to maybe reach out to somebody who owes you money and suggest that this would be a good time for them to pay you. And also, paying attention to your income and not just your expenses. I mean, you absolutely have to pay attention to your expenses, but if you pay attention to your income, then it has a chance to expand. Then when it comes to relationships, specifically new love, the sun's making an opposition to Jupiter, so you have a really good opportunity to meet someone new, start up a conversation, text back and forth, but actually even meet in person and see if there is a real connection. So there is such an opportunity here that I hope that you will, update your online profile, tell your friends that you are open to dating, because this is one of the best 2-week periods that you've had in a while. I know you're going to have some good ones coming up as well, so if you're not quite ready yet, that's okay, but it's time to start thinking about this. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the sun is making a sesquiquadrate to Uranus. And a sesquiquadrate is an interesting aspect. It's really the energy of a square combined with a semi-square. So two very challenging aspects that are really based on taking action. And so this is all about you stepping up and doing something. If there's something that's bothering you, it's time for you to bring it up. And not slip into some old conversation about it, but really try to understand why the other person has their point of view. And as you do that, you will get some new information that will be very valuable for yourself. With the sesco quadrant, it may be that your partner is going through some hard times at the moment. Maybe they don't feel that well. Maybe they're worried about their job. Maybe they're worried about their kids or their family members. And so empathizing with them whenever possible. And I know it's challenging because this is an irritating aspect. So you may feel quite irritated and short-tempered with them. But if you can step back and say, you know what, this is an aspect, it will pass. So you will have a great opportunity to come together and strengthen this relationship. Now, when it comes to home and family, the sun's making a trine to Pluto. And so there is an opportunity to bring in other family members to help you with your love relationship, which is excellent. That means that maybe somebody can be a buffer. Maybe somebody can also offer some care to your partner and to you. So it means that together you are stronger because you understand each other, you have sympathy for each other. And with that new moon in your house of siblings and neighbors, it is possible that you can get, local help, someone to step up. And, like when you feel that you're not connecting with your partner, to even sit down with a sibling and say, okay, what should I do? So there is a lot more harmony in the household, and that can help you a great deal. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Mercury, which is back in your house of money, and it's moving to make a conjunction to Venus. And so this means that you are hyper aware of all the different opportunities that are out there, and there are many. Some of these opportunities will be coming back to you from a previous time. This might have been something on a previous retrograde, so like 3 or 4 months ago. This might come from years ago, and this could be anything from a colleague you used to work with telling you there's a job opening at their place, or a customer that you haven't seen in many years coming back to you. The Mercury coming together with Venus also, though, is an ability to spend money. And this would be specifically spending money to make more money. So that could be investments, but also investing in maybe education, maybe a platform to help you keep track of money. So there is a little spending involved here, but it's to help you become more organized, more productive, more efficient. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, Mercury's making an opposition to Neptune, and they're both in money houses, so this bodes pretty well. Now, I would say the only danger of this is being overly optimistic again. And so that would be you were super optimistic about this investment, and then it didn't do so well, and then you say, yeah, but this time it's going to work, and then you put more money into it without really looking at the fundamentals or the technical analysis or even the downside. So just be aware of that you can get a little swept away with a little too much optimism with this. But in general, this is an aspect that tells me that you're going to make more money than usual over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, so like a paycheck, Mars is in that house, and the Mercury is back in a money house. And so this is very much, if you have already started this conversation about getting a raise, getting more hours, getting a promotion, this is the time to continue that conversation, because now it can come to a happy conclusion. And so you have very good possibilities for getting something that brings you more money, even as soon as this 2-week period. So I'm really liking the energy here. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Mercury is making an out-of-sign opposition to Jupiter. So the opposition is good because this is two parties coming together to find some sort of compromise. However, the out-of-sign part of this means that it's a little bit unexpected, or maybe you look across the table and you don't know how the two of you can ever come together, but you can find it by starting with some common ground. Now, this also means that maybe if you're doing some big project on spec, like your art portfolio, that maybe you want to take it to somebody who is knowledgeable about these things and have them review it. They may give you some good news, they may give you some bad news, and you take what they're saying and you incorporate that into what you're wanting to do. So this is, you do have an aspect. It is a good one. It's just going to be a little bit of extra work to find out how this is going to unfold for you. It's not as direct as just putting money down on something and having a win happen. There's a little bit of nuance here. And as with always with risky investments, which are so different than traditional investments or risky investments done in a traditional way, the risky investment category is one that you shouldn't invest money unless you can afford to lose it. So this is that energy of the lottery ticket, a very small amount of money with really, really high odds that is just really challenging. So versus something where you're maybe dollar cost averaging into it, which would be more of a traditional investment. And then finally, I should say that because Mercury is still retrograde, if you're thinking about doing a big launch of a product or a business or your screenplay, you might want to wait until Mercury is direct after October 2nd before you do that. So this would be a time initially to go over edits, check your copy, check your titles, are the pictures in the right place, etc. And then looking towards the end of this 2-week period at a time to launch. Okay, Virgo, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of money. It's making an opposition to Jupiter in your house of resources. This is one of the best opportunities you have for planting seeds for getting new money. Now, that means that you're taking an idea and maybe taking the very first steps on it. And so this might be that you have an idea to start a business, and so you start to look for the domain name, or that you reach out to someone who could be a potential mentor, or you start to formulate what your Kickstarter campaign would look like. You are looking at taking the first step, because in all of the things that we create, no matter how big it is, it starts with what can I do in the next 5 minutes? And so if you take a small action on something every day, it's amazing what you can build. And so that is the opportunity now, is about seed planting. And so you might even pick 2 or 3 things that you want to investigate further, but you want to take some sort of action where you are contacting another person to see what they think, interviewing someone to see if they want to work with you. And it's about taking those little tiny steps, and that's what adds up. Now, this Jupiter also is about power. This is the idea that you have power in your life, and if you feel that you don't, you have to see how you can switch that. Now, the reason you might not have power is because you feel like you are overly leveraged in your life. That is, that you have too much debt, or that you don't have skills, or that you don't have people who will support you. And you can remedy any of these situations. Again, not necessarily easy, but through tiny steps you can do it. And the Jupiter here is helping you and shifting it. So the first question, if you're in that situation, to ask is, if you're feeling like you don't have power in a situation, you say, is it really true? Yes, your boss could fire you, but you could also quit, which means that you're kind of equal in the area of power. So that's just one example of how you can shift power towards your direction. Now, Mercury is back in your own sign and back in your house of confidence and physical presence, and probably giving you this idea that you should be working out, exercising, taking care of your physical body. This also brings some opportunities for relationships. So this could bring someone from your past knocking on your door again. And so you can see if you've changed, if they've changed, and if it's going to work out this time. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mercury's not making an aspect with Saturn, because really the focus right now is on either existing relationships or people you've known from the past. So if you want to meet somebody, quote unquote, new, consider, looking up some people from high school or college, reaching out to people you haven't seen in a while. Maybe you never dated before, but you were friends. So look for somebody you already know, and then you can activate this energy. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Mercury is making an opposition to Neptune. They're both in relationship houses, so this is really good. Because Mercury is retrograde, they're actually getting tighter together. And so this is you and your sweetheart coming together, finding common ground, finding where you need to compromise with each other so that you make a stronger unit. I feel like you can have actually some really kind of sweet romantic times over the next 2 weeks. You know, maybe there's a special occasion coming up and you can do something really wonderful together. Or perhaps this is time to just break your routine and go do something that's really fun that you haven't maybe done as a couple together. Maybe you've done it before as individuals, you know, like horseback riding or bowling or, some sort of fun activity where you get to see a new side of each other. Now, when it comes to home and family, Mercury is making an opposition to Jupiter, but it's out of sign. So that means there is a little bit of a disconnect going on. It's not huge, but it is that you have to work a little bit to find how you can fit into family schedule. And so that is maybe you want to go to the movies, but your partner's hungry. And so maybe you can go to one of those theaters where they actually have dinner. Or you might say, all right, well, then let's just, stream the movie instead. And so we can stay home and have dinner. It's about working the extra little bit to find how you guys can compromise and come together. And so, but it's an opposition, and that's with Jupiter. It's a good aspect. So, but because it's out of sign, it just means that you've got to go that extra step to make it work out. Now, when it comes to your money, wow, you got some great energy here because you are pulling money first from that Venus, which is going to have that conjunction with Mercury, which is your planet ruler. Plus, you have the new moon there. So, and it's opposite Jupiter, which is also in a money house. So things here show great opportunities for finding new sources of money or capitalizing on the sources that you have already started. So this is very much about planting some seeds and seeing if some new money-making opportunity could pay off for you, but also looking at some of the seeds you've planted in the past and see if you put a little bit more time and energy, if those could flourish. So this is about looking at your skills and saying, what do you like to do and what do you want to do, and seeing if those things can make you money, because it really looks like it could. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, even though Mars is not making an aspect with Venus, you have the new moon there, you have Jupiter there, and so with this combination, you can make more money over the next 2 weeks. I think that what's going to happen is, for some of you, it's going to be a promise of the money, and then the money just comes outside the 2 week period. But I think that the money is there, so this might mean that you are getting ready to sell some sort of investment, or that you found something that's really gone up, but maybe it's not quite time to sell it yet, but you can see the profits there. Also, you may get a new customer, but maybe they pay in 30 days. So this is really good for your money. I do see you making more money during the 2 week period, although it may come right at the very, very end or just outside the 2 week period. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so that would be like a paycheck, you do have you have a great money house. So there's no aspect going on, though, quite yet between that moon and Venus. And so really, this isn't quite yet the time. So I think that this is going to line up in the near future. And so you're going to have more opportunities. But right now, it can be kind of challenging because you may just get saddled with more work and responsibilities, and then it doesn't really feel like much of a raise. So this is a time maybe where you're looking at diversifying your ways of making money rather than focusing in on one paycheck. And so this is not so maybe good for asking for a raise, but maybe looking at what kind of things you can do to make more money in general. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Venus is making an inconjunct with Saturn. And so that is that you are needing to step outside your comfort zone. You're needing to make some sort of adjustments to make this happen. And so that is, sometimes it is that you have everything together, but you need to talk to someone. You need to connect with that person to see, what they're going to give you, or to take some steps to make, something official happen. Like if it is just, that you have to get your money from point A to point B for the investment itself, maybe you just have to do some research on how that all happens, and taking it very, very carefully right now because Mercury is retrograde. And then if you are looking at maybe launching your novel, maybe having a friend read it, or checking your cover, or things like that, especially during the time that Mercury is retrograde. After October 2nd, when Mercury is direct, then it would be much more of a time to launch this. So an inconjunct is a more difficult aspect, but it is still an aspect, and you know how I feel about that. That does mean that the money that's out in the world can come into your account. So, but it does require you stepping outside your comfort zone, and this is that category of risky investments, so don't invest more than you can afford to lose. If you are doing long-term investing, if you are doing investing for your future, that is traditional investing, and that's the type of investing you want to stay with. And those are things like diversified portfolios, dollar cost averaging, or things that your grandfather would have recognized. So that's my little speech for risky investments. I don't think they can see you. Yeah, but you're super cute. Okay, Libra, this is your new moon, and so this means that you have new opportunities, especially when you put yourself out there. This is making an opposition to Jupiter in your house of relationships, and that means that as you meet more people, as you connect to more people, you have more opportunities. And that is not just opportunities for love relationships, but that is opportunities for friendships, collaboration, etc. Are you okay? So this means actually putting yourself out into the world, and that can be virtually through social media, or it could be going to social events, going to networking events, or even just, when you go off to the grocery store, to make sure that you're looking up from your phone every once in a while, that you're greeting people, that you're connecting with people. Reach out to friends who you haven't talked to in a while, because Mercury is still retrograde, and so that is it's trying to bring you and your past back together. And so this is an opportunity for you to expand many things in your life, but it's all going to happen through other people. Now, of course, this starts your 12-month lunar cycle. And so that means that not only for this 2 weeks, but also for the whole month, you want to be planting a lot of seeds, and that is start new things. That is, learn something new, make some goals, think about the direction that you want to go with your life. This is a time where you might be, thinking about it from kind of a making resolutions standpoint, because this is where your emotions are involved. So that can be very helpful. Now, additionally, Mercury is still retrograde, and it's back in your 12th house of spirituality and psychic ability, and also escapes. And so starting first, though, with the psychic ability, if you are drawn to different practices, lighting candles, doing magic, doing feng shui, it's time to go back to that and incorporate that into your life. But it's also possible that you may slip into some old bad habits, things that are helping you escape from the world. And so when you catch yourself doing that, you might want to say, nope. This is a time to be out into the world, not to be hiding. And so that Mercury retrograde is to remind you of things you did in the past, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to repeat them. It's just reminding you maybe of how far you've come. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, you are doing very strong relationship energy, because the new moon moon is opposing Jupiter in your relationship houses. So, but Venus is currently not making an aspect to Uranus. And so this is more about starting the process rather than meeting the person and running off to Vegas to get married. So this is about looking for friendships and partnerships and somebody that you could consider going out with. Maybe you are doing this through texting and connecting. So I think you can take the baby steps about a new relationship, and you may actually have your first date, though, outside the 2-week period. When it comes to existing love relationships, again, even though Venus is not making an aspect to Mars, you have such strong relationship energy. And so this is a time to just really enjoy each other, to find the things that you love to do together. Maybe these are things from the past. Maybe this person's going to help you plant some of the seeds for your future. And it's you guys coming together. There's much less about having to work things out in the relationship. You're not trying to dig through or try to do some sort of, counseling about, we got to fix this or that. That may come outside this 2-week period. And if you are seeing a counselor, you'll probably continue, but you're still doing just surface stuff. This is a time where the surface stuff is kind of the glue that's holding you together. And that can be very joyful. That can be just discovering again that you both love curry and you both love Bollywood, and so why not make an evening of it, or things like that. Now, when it comes to home and family, Venus is making an inconjunct to Saturn, and so there is some stuff going on, and most of this is about making adjustments for each other, and that is that you can't all do the same thing at the same time, perhaps. I mean, you can't all be crowded in the kitchen at once, and so you have to space it out, or maybe you have to space out a shower schedule. It might be that the entire family is doing something outside the comfort zone. Maybe that is there's some home renovations going on, and so you're having to adjust because you can't be in the kitchen, or the TV's in a different place or something like that. So this is that you're coming together. You may be irritating each other, but you're really irritated just because of external circumstances. So don't let it be about each other, but more see that if you can adjust the external circumstances in any way, then there can be more harmony at home. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Pluto, which continues to be in your 4th house, which brings opportunities for a family business, a home business, or real estate, as well as that Mars, which is now going to be in your 9th house until March 25th of next year. So very long time. So this Mars is giving you opportunities to make money through marketing, teaching, writing, publishing, any type of content creation, as well as travel, foreign countries, import, export, legal matters. And so that would be getting a professional license or becoming a, what do they call it? Paralegal. Or anything dealing with, taking the education that you do have, maybe adding a little to it, and then going out into the world and making money from it. So lots and lots of money opportunities. It's very, very strong. That Mars is your most elevated planet. So this is something where you may have more ideas right now than you can actually work on, but this is a seed planting time. So just make a list of the ideas and you'll have time later. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, you're doing pretty well because Venus is making a trine to Pluto. So it's likely you're going to make more money over the next 2 weeks than usual. And so that might mean that your investments are going up, and maybe you're going to sell something so you can reallocate the funds, etc. It's possible that clients are coming back to you who you haven't seen in a long time because of that Mercury retrograde. It is possible that you are expanding your territory, so you do show really good energy for the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to money from your company, from money derived from your career, which is like a paycheck, and had to work to get that out, the sun is making a trine to Pluto. And so again, you show the very strong ability to make more money over the next 2 weeks. So this is the time to ask for the raise, or at least plant that seed. And maybe you can get some of the raise now and then the rest of it later, or the full promotion later. Maybe this is it. I mean, certainly you can get more hours right now, but maybe a new position is opening up and you can slide right into it. So there is really good energy in this area for you. Now, when it comes to money from risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. You have a pair of aspects that you're doing. They're both a semi-sextile. So, and that is, hold on, I have to check. So Saturn is making a semi-sextile to Pluto, and Mars is making a semi-sextile to Uranus. So your ruler is making a semi-sextile, and the co-ruler is making a semi-sextile. And so what is a semi-sextile? Well, I've talked about that on this channel as a little rock in your shoe. And that is if you're on a hike and you really want to get to your destination. And so if you keep walking with the rock in your shoe, you're going to be miserable. It's going to, in fact, it may interrupt the hike, and it was only a tiny little rock. But if you just stop and take care of that little detail, get that rock out of your shoe, then everything is successful. So that's what this is about, is dealing with the details. And so this is kind of like the universe saying, like an emphasis on deal with the details right now. And again, Mercury's retrograde, so this is a perfect time to deal with details. So look at, ask yourself, what am I missing? What am I not seeing? What is the downside here? What is the thing that's going to jump out at me in 6 months? Or what happens if the economy does drop? How is this going to affect it? Or what if the economy really goes up? And how is that going to affect this? So asking yourself those questions. If you are doing some sort of signing on the dotted line, remember Mercury is retrograde until October 2nd, and sometimes it's better to wait outside the retrograde period before you sign. This is the category of risky investments, so always be very careful about risky investments. This is very different than traditional investments where you are saving for the future. The risky investment category is a little bit more like a bet. So don't bet more than you can afford to lose. So, and with all that said, you do have some positive energy here. It's just you have to stop and look at the details. Okay, Scorpio, you guys are doing this new moon in your 12th house. That is your house of hidden things, your shadow self, as well as psychic ability. So, and I know that sounds a little odd that psychic ability comes up there. It is because psychic ability requires there to be no boundaries between you and everything else. And so that is also where you can have no boundaries between the shadow self, your inner self, as well as the shadow parts of the world or the universe. And it's also why sometimes we say that this is your area of escapes or addictions, because again, that's where you're not having a boundary. Not you specifically, but it just in general. Now, I'm really digressing here, so let me get back on track here. So this new moon is making an opposition to Jupiter, and so this Jupiter causes things to expand, and so you have increased psychic ability. Wonderful, but, well, mostly wonderful. Sometimes it can feel like your head is filled with other people's thoughts, and, if you already walk around as being highly intuitive, but maybe sometimes not realizing it, you then wake up one day and you're feeling really sad and you can't find a reason for it. It's probably somebody else that you walked by them in the last day and you picked up their emotions and now you're holding on to it. It's just a matter of releasing it. So that's the other side of this no boundaries thing. Something can come in, but you have to release it and let it go out. So now, because this is in your 12th house, this means you are at the last month of your 12-month lunar cycle. So that is like any balsamic period, you want to look at the past year and say, did I accomplish the things I wanted to accomplish? Did I grow in the areas I wanted to grow in? What could I do better? What were the successes? Where were the challenges? That sort of thing. So it is also a time to declutter, and that would be to look at what you've got around you in the physical sense, but also, emotional declutter, mental declutter, and spiritual declutter. And that is, again, allowing stuff to come in, but allowing what is not yours to go out again. So this is, with this opposition, everything can expand. And so that means that you may find you have a couple of days during this 2-week period, especially, where you just feel like you need some time to process. So if you can take some time off and unplug a little bit, that would be good. Walks in nature, that sort of thing, wonderful right now. Now, Mercury is retrograde, of course, still, and it's gone back into your house of friendships, community, and technology. So it may cause you some technology problems, but there would be a friend there to help you. It also may reconnect you with somebody from your past. And so we might want to watch on your social media that somebody might, say, hey, we went to high school together or something like that, so that you can reconnect with that person. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, of course, Neptune's making that sextile to Pluto. You always get the good news here. So, but even more so now, because Mercury is back in that house of friendships. And so you could reach out to a friend and say, okay, I now am serious about this. I want to go meet somebody new, and they can help you. So this is where you want to tap into that. You also might consider doing some feng shui or some sort of ritual to meet someone new. And this might be, lighting a candle or saying a prayer, or, actually activating the universe, maybe putting a little pair of hearts by your front door to welcome in new love, that sort of thing. So look at what you can do from a spiritual standpoint to welcome new love. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Venus is making a trine to Pluto, so very good connection. It's interesting because the sun and moon are in your 12th house, so you might steal away for a little weekend by yourselves, or send the kids off so you can have the house to yourself. This is a time where we see much more romance going on in your relationship, and so you can really come together and, to have romantic fun. So that's really good. When it comes to home and family, you're doing some semi-sextile energy. That is, Saturn is making a semi-sextile to Pluto, and Mars is making a semi-sextile to Uranus. So it's kind of double semi-sextile energy. I've talked about this aspect before on this channel. It is about stopping and taking care of a detail. Otherwise, the process becomes extremely arduous and difficult. And so this is, like maybe your kid helps you in the kitchen and they load the dishwasher, but you don't like the way they're loading the dishwasher and you get frustrated about it. This is that time where you just need to stop and explain why you want it loaded in a certain way. And so it is, this aspect is to, if you're on the hike and you have a rock in your shoe, you have to stop and take the rock out of your shoe. It does not help you just to push forward. So that's the energy that you're doing at home. It is to look for the small little tweaks that you can do just to make things better. And, and this is where a lot of times feng shui can come in. Like if you feel you watch too much TV, put the remote control in a drawer. So put it slightly out of reach and you will watch less TV. You want to eat more fruits and vegetables, take them out of the little bin in the refrigerator and put them in a bowl at the top shelf of the refrigerator, and you'll eat more fruits and vegetables. It doesn't take much to alter our behaviors. We just make something that's slightly inconvenient, we will gravitate towards the easier thing. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from Jupiter in your house of work. This is also routines, productivity, efficiency, as well as employees. And so it may be that you need to multiply yourself to make more money. And it doesn't mean necessarily that you have your own business either. Perhaps you need a personal assistant to just help you declutter your office so you have more time to spend on your investments. Or maybe this is that you are thinking about starting a new business, and so you want to talk to somebody about what they could do to help you get that launched. So this is you looking at efficiency or where you're procrastinating on something, and if you can make that small adjustment, wow, you could just zip forward. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, Mercury's making an out-of-sign opposition to Jupiter, and Mars is in that house. So really good energy. The out-of-sign part of this means it may not be as obvious, and that is that that you might have to dig a little bit deeper, or from a business standpoint, it might be that a product you don't normally sell suddenly gets very popular. You don't really know why, but it's time to put some energy into that. Or if it's an investment, maybe there is a way to diversify your investments that takes a little bit more work, but it is worth it in the long run. Now, because the Mars is there and it's going to be there in your house of resources for months, it is going to boister you even when you're not making an aspect. But this time you are making an aspect, so you're probably making more money over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, so like a paycheck, the energy is even better because not only are you doing that out of sign opposition, but Mercury's back in that house. So it is going to make a conjunction with the Venus, which is also in that house. So this is your time to talk to your employer about a promotion, getting more money, or to negotiate with another company about getting more money. So additionally, with Mars in your house of resources, you may get more perks than you think, and that could be more vacation time or more job flexibility. So this is the time to ask, because you do look like you could make more money over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, and money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Your two planets, Jupiter and Neptune, are heading back towards each other. We've been talking about this. They're not quite there yet, but Jupiter is retrograde and it moves much faster than that Neptune retrograde. So Jupiter is going to be coming back there. So this is still your time of working on your project, that is working on your art portfolio, if that is what it is. It is working on your novel. The time is growing short where you're going to want to launch that. So this is, if you're falling behind on your schedule, this is a time to catch up. And with other more risky investments, things that are time sensitive and all of that, the timing is not there during this 2 weeks. So you may want to, stay clear of some of those. If they're just highly exotic type of investments, then just recognize that your timeline needs to be fairly long right now to make a profit. So right now, be cautious about your long-term investments. Mercury is still retrograde, and that can cause you to have to relook at something. So just be cautious about those. Your bigger money is in traditional investments right now, so looking towards that way. Okay, Sagittarius, you guys are doing this new moon in your area of friendships, community. This is also the future and technology, and it's making an opposition to Jupiter in your house of love relationships, but also risk-taking, adventure, creativity. It's also fertility and children. And so it's quite possible that some of you Sagittarius natives out there are going to either be pregnant or know someone who's gotten pregnant. And so there can be that sort of celebration going on. If you're wanting to get pregnant, then this is an opportunity to find the help that you're looking for that process. I think I won't go into that any further. So, but the new moon up there in the house of friendships say that you are expanding your circle of friends, that there's opportunities to meet new people, to find groups or organizations to belong to. It is a way to connect deeply with the community. It also does say that there might be some new technology in your life. And this is interesting because with Mercury retrograde, it may not be the smoothest of installs. And so if you were thinking about, like learning video editing or some other challenging project, if you're starting this during Mercury retrograde, and I do understand sometimes we're so enthusiastic and we can't wait to get started, but just recognize that the Mercury retrograde is going to make it a little bumpy. And so if you're willing to accept that bumpiness, which oftentimes Sagittarius is, then you go for it and you just say, this is the retrograde part. This is where I'm getting tripped up. Now, what the Jupiter is doing is it's expanding your house of creativity and risk-taking. And that is not just financial risk, but all types of stepping outside your comfort zone. And so first of all, it means to be unapologetically you. So when you are out there meeting people and connecting, it is to say, this is me, accept me or not. And so if the world's not accepting you, you need, well, not the whole world, that wouldn't happen, but if the person in front of you is not accepting you, it is a big world, and so you can find others. But Jupiter can go overboard, and so it also reminds you to be part of the community, not just have that the world revolves around you. And so with your fire energy, of course, you can be very enthusiastic and you can jump in, whole hog. But in this case, you want to temper that to be yourself, but try not to be the center of all that's going on, because the new moon is in the house of community. It's about what the other person is thinking or doing. Now, the Mercury retrograde is back in your house of career, and so this is a little reminder for you to check in to see how your job is going, how the company is doing, how the industry itself is doing, because we're in a time of great change, and so we get little heads up here and there about, oh, you know what? They're doing a lot of automation in my industry right now. I wonder if I'm still going to have a job in 5 years. Or this company, it's not doing so well. It's cut back on dividends and, it's laying off people. Maybe I should update my resume. Or maybe you look at the job itself and you say, I don't know if I want to stay here for years to come. And so this is your time to examine things. When Mercury's retrograde, we go over something we've gone over before. And so this is a time to re-examine it, to rethink it, maybe rework your career, because opportunities can come. And that is, like if you're looking for a job, you probably want to start the job outside the retrograde period, if that's at all possible. That happens on October 2nd. So, but in the meantime, you do want to do an examination of your career. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, it is a very strong chart for you. Even though we are not seeing Jupiter make an aspect with Mars, you have the new moon in your house of friendships. Jupiter is in your house of love relationships. And so you can meet somebody new. Now, I'm thinking, when you don't have that connection, you could meet this new person, but maybe your first date is outside the 2-week period, or, like maybe you're meeting the person over and over in a group, so it's not really a one-on-one date yet. And so, but it's there, and Venus is your most elevated planet on this, for this 2 weeks, which means that your charisma is strong, that you're attracting a lot of positive attention, that people think that they think you're amazing. So you have opportunities over this 2-week period. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Mercury is making an out-of-sign opposition to Jupiter. So what that means is that you have the benefits of the opposition, which is, two people on a seesaw. And as you come together, you don't have the big ups and downs. You find things that you have in common, where you can compromise, and then the relationship gets stronger. But it's out of sign. And so there is some sort of disconnect where you feel like maybe you don't have as much in common as you used to, and it's necessary for you to dig a little bit to find out what you do have in common. So I don't know, the example that comes to mind is that maybe your partner has gone keto, and so they don't want to share in desserts, they don't bake with you anymore, they don't want to go to Solvang and eat pastries or things like that. And so you have to look more deeply and say, oh, wait, but we both love golf, and maybe we can do some more golfing together. That's where you might need to look for something, again, that you have in common. Now, when it comes to home and family, Jupiter and Neptune are not yet together, but they are inching closer and closer. And so there is something where the family will be coming together in the future and maybe doing something quite important. That could be a move, that could be helping older relatives, that could be launching some adult children. So that time is not quite here yet. So it's just good to create a foundation for that. Like start to have that discussion with your parents about where they might live in the future, or the same with your adult kids, or maybe looking at the house and saying, maybe we won't be staying here for that many more months or that many more years, and so it's time to declutter. So, but right now you're not doing an aspect, so you can build that foundation, but we're not seeing the big thing happening yet. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Saturn in your house of communication. And we haven't talked about Saturn much in this chart, but it is actually doing quite a lot of energy. And that is, it's making a brilliant trine to Mars in your house of partnerships, relationships, and collaborations, as well as coming back to make that final square with Uranus, which is in your house of daily routines, productivity, and efficiency. And so when we think about all of this coming together, this is you making some sort of schedule where you can contact others on a regular basis, where you can get involved in some sort of partnership or some sort of collaboration, where you look at where you're procrastinating and eliminate that. Find ways to adjust your daily routines so that you get right to business. And you're going to find that can cause your income to shoot up. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, the moon is making a sesquiquadrate to Saturn. So a sesquiquadrate is literally a square with a semi-square. So that's the energy of it. And those are two difficult aspects that only get better when you take action. So the semi-square energy part of that is to do the thing that is irritating you first. And the square is just to get you to be very direct and take some action. And so this comes together when you do what you've been putting off. Like, again, we're talking about the procrastination side of this. Oh, and I've talked about procrastination on this channel before. We procrastinate really for one of two reasons. And so one of it is that we feel it's too difficult, and the other, we feel it's too boring. In this particular case with the sesquiquadrate, it feels too difficult. And so you have to start with questions. And the questions might be, what is the smallest piece of this that I can do right now? Or what would this look like if it was simple? Or who can help me get this done? So any of these types of questions can help you break free of this problem. Now, I say it's a problem, but you do show making more money over the next 2 weeks if you can tackle the problem head on. So take the action, and that's where you get the profits. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, so that's like a paycheck, you're doing some extraordinary energy here because you're doing the new moon there, plus Venus is making an inconjunct to Saturn, and that Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus is in your career house. So that you've got a ton of opportunities here, and it feels uncomfortable. It feels like you have to step out of your comfort zone. So this might be that your boss is telling you, we're not giving raises to anyone, and you still need to approach them and say, yeah, but I'm different because I've been here longer, or I'm doing a better job, or maybe I can slip into a different position and therefore get a raise. So you want to adjust the circumstances by giving your supervisor maybe more options. So it also is saying that you might feel quite compelled to do it, at least plant the seeds at this time, and maybe then the bigger promotion comes later, but that maybe right now you focus on getting some perks, which might be some flexibility in your hours, flexibility about coming into the office or not, or some other benefits that maybe aren't a raise, but still put money in your pocket. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Mars is making a trine to Saturn. So you have really good energy from the aspect. Jupiter's in that house. This is the time where you want to be looking at opportunities. I think it's quite interesting because Jupiter can expand the opportunities. It's making the opposition to the new moon. And so, but with the Mercury retrograde, I feel like this is looking at something you've looked at before, but maybe in a new way, or that you are starting something that is very familiar to you, so it has components that you've done before. Now, with risky investments, of course, you want to be very cautious. This is not like traditional investments where you're saving for the future. This is where you're kind of placing a bet. And so you don't want to bet more than you can afford to lose. Now, also, though, if you're doing the side of risky investments where this is a lot of prep up front, like writing a novel for months or years and then launching the novel, that also falls under risky investments. And so you want to be cognizant of that Mercury retrograde. It's not so easy to launch something on a Mercury retrograde, but you can take it around to different people, start arranging, where you're going to do a book signing, who you're going to, do interviews with, who has a podcast, who wants to talk to an author in your genre. So these are the types of things to do during the Mercury retrograde, which lasts till October 2nd, and then you can go and do the launch after that. Okay, Capricorn, you guys are doing this new moon right at the top of your chart. So this is your area of career, reputation, your social standing, and this is where new things are happening. It's making an opposition to Jupiter right at the base of your chart, which is, of course, about foundations. It is about tradition and the past and home and family. So this is where you might be getting some support from your family. Maybe not the family that you live with. Maybe this is extended family. Maybe it's your ancestors. And this is where you may be starting some new career or launching a, it's Mercury retrograde. So hopefully you're not launched just yet. Maybe you launched it recently, but launching a new business, a new direction for your life. So this is the brand new moon. So this energy lasts for the full 2 weeks, and Mercury retrograde ends on October 2nd. So you have a little bit of a window here. Right now, it's kind of like the countdown for the launch. Now, this is also about, looking at where you want to be, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or even bringing that in, where do you want to be in 6 months? So, and then you can plant the seeds for that. That might mean updating your resume or just watching some videos on how to do good interviewing techniques. There could be, during the 2 weeks, some opportunity that does open up, and that might be something that you go towards, but it also could be you just making a decision that you are going to go do something different as a career and go forward by planting that seed to say, yeah, I'm interested in it. And then you start to look for opportunities. Now, Mercury is retrograde, still going back into your house of education. And so you might be thinking about whether to go back to school. And now, of course, September is always that energy of school. And so you might be looking at accelerated programs. Maybe you are back in school and you're saying to yourself, why did I go back to school? Is this really helping? And so if you've made a commitment to that, like money is exchanged hands and all that, really lean into it while Mercury is retrograde to see if this is right for you. Really pay attention in class, get the homework done, etc. And then you can reevaluate after Mercury goes direct. So, but if this is a time where you're saying, oh, I wonder if I should go back to school, Mercury is still retrograde. So it's just a time for exploring the possibility, maybe not making a commitment yet until, again, Mercury is direct and then it's moving forward. Now, of course, ninth house is more than just education. It is also about travel and legal matters, taking professional exams and dealing with people in foreign countries, etc. So that's the Mercury retrograde may involve something like that, like perhaps you need to update your professional license. Maybe you need to look at the paperwork for a lawsuit that you're doing, or maybe you need to look at your travel plans. Now, when it comes to relationships, specifically new love, Venus is making an inconjunct to Saturn. And an inconjunct is such an interesting energy because it's sometimes easier than an opposition, because in an opposition, you have to have two people coming together and finding some common ground, whereas an inconjunct is more about you making an adjustment or having the other person make an adjustment. And when it comes to new love, it's probably you making the adjustment, and that is, you probably just need to get out of the house more. Right now, Jupiter is in your 4th house, and so maybe you're feeling very, home-oriented, like you're feeling domestic, maybe you're redecorating, maybe you're making bread from scratch or something like that, but you have all of these beautiful planets that are elevated in your chart right now, Venus, Mercury, Moon, and Sun, and so that means get out of the house, go be seen, and that could mean that you're just attending parties and things like that. But if you really want to be seen, that is to put yourself on stage, go audition at improv, or, go take a class where you can learn to sing and, be in a choir or something where you are on stage, go do your stand-up routine on an open mic night. So this is, the more you are out there, the more opportunities you're going to have specifically for new love. But it's an inconjunct, so you have to do something that's slightly uncomfortable. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the moon's making a sesquiquadrate to Saturn. So a sesquiquadrate is a combination of 2 different types of action-producing aspects. One's a semi-square and the other is a square. And they are that you find the thing that irritates you in your life and you take action about it. And so in this case, in love relationships, that means that you need to look at what is irritating you about your relationship and first start with what you can change. What can you do differently that will make that thing go away? And you might instantly say nothing, but before you instantly say it, check again, because Mercury's retrograde, and see if there's something that you can do differently that alleviates the stress. And then if you say, okay, I've done everything I can change, I've done all that, then you next go to the person and see if there's some action you can take with them to help the situation change. So this sesquiquadrate, it's a difficult aspect, but it is an aspect, which means that the other person is trying to work on a similar thing. And so they may want to get past this irritation as well. And so you can work together. So, but, it's still irritating. So be patient with the situation. Don't try to rush things if at all possible. And you could come together to strengthen your love relationship. Now, when it comes to home and family, you have Mars making a trine to Saturn. So fantastic. So that means you can get family support for what it is that you're trying to do with your love relationship. Additionally, Jupiter is in that house, which means your family is expanding. And so the problem is that you and your sweetheart are struggling because you don't think that your families are going to accept you, this is the time to go find out, because you're doing really good energy with home and family. So maybe, overcome that hurdle together and find out what you can do to ingratiate yourselves in each other's families. So right now, the family energy is quite good, and so you want to capitalize on that. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Uranus, which, of course, is in your house of adventure and risk-taking. We'll talk about that more later. But it also, you pull money from the co-ruler Saturn. And these two are inching closer together to make their final square. And so I did a whole video on the Saturn-Uranus square. I really talked a lot about Bitcoin with it. So that may not be your cup of tea. So if I break it down for you, just kind of the Reader's Digest of that is the Reader's Digest of it. You can tell how old I am that I even know what a Reader's Digest is. So for those of you who are younger, Reader's Digest was a magazine that was long ago, and what it did was summarize articles from other magazines. And they even went on as a publishing company to summarize entire books. And so they'd put a bunch of books, novels, etc., into one book, and they were condensed books. And so when someone says, I want to give you the Reader's Digest, that's what they mean. So anyway, Saturn square Uranus. So Saturn builds something and Uranus blows something up. And so what happens here is we have this energy of the square coming together, which means that what you have built could be blown up, and especially blown up by yourself. And so then once it's blown up, the Saturn still exists, and so you rebuild with those old materials. So An example of that for a money-making prospect would be maybe you are a teacher and you're not happy with being a teacher in a classroom anymore. And so, but you want to take those skills, you blow up that job and say, okay, I'm not going to be a teacher anymore. But you take your skills and you then apply it to maybe be a teacher for corporate situations where you're going in and then teaching adults on a very specific topic. And so you're taking some of the options or some of the talents, not options, but your talents and abilities and applying it to a new situation. And so that's a really simplistic example, but it is, looking at your talents and abilities, and if something you were doing suddenly did not exist, you still have all the talents and abilities, so therefore what could you apply it to? And that is something that you want to be thinking about over these next few weeks beyond this 2-week period, because this is going to go on for a while. It is for you to look at how you can take what you already do and apply it to new situations, and that's what's going to make you money. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, the sun is making a sesquiquadrate to Uranus. And so opportunity is there, but it's just not very obvious, and you must take action on it. So that's the hard combination. You have to find what the money-making opportunity is and then go do something about it. So you're going to have to give yourself a little bit of time and ask yourself those questions. And that might be something like, what is it I'm not seeing here that could make me money? Or what is the thing that I keep avoid doing that could make me money? So look at doing those harder things, and that's how you're going to make more money in this next 2 weeks. Okay, when it comes to money derived from career, so that's like a paycheck, you're doing semi-sextile energy. Specifically, that is Saturn semi-sextiles Pluto and Mars semi-sextiles Uranus. So you're doing both of them. The co-rulers are semi-sextiling each other. And so a semi-sextile, we've talked about that on this channel quite a number of times, that is that you need to stop and do the small irritating things, and that's what brings you to your goal. So I talk about it as being you're on a hike and you have a rock in your shoe. You really want to reach your destination, and your inclination is to do not stop. But if you stop and take the rock out of your shoe, you're much more likely to be successful. And so there may be something that your supervisor wants you to do that you still haven't done yet. Maybe it's take some sort of class or to do a particular report for them or finish a project. You want to find what that small thing is and just finish that thing and then approach them, because you're doing a double aspect here. So you can get more money than usual, but there is going to be some stipulation. So find it, do that thing, and then you have a clear path to your destination. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Even though Venus is not making an aspect to Uranus, Uranus is in Taurus, which is ruled by that Venus, and Venus is getting a lot of energy right now because it's making a trine to Pluto, and it is going to be conjuncted by that Mercury, which is going backwards right now. So all of that said, what does all that mean? So what that means is that you want to look at this very carefully when you are considering a risky investment to see the ins and outs and see if there's some sort of derivation that you can do that maybe is a little less risky, maybe is something you're more familiar with because of the retrograde. Maybe it's something that you can have a little bit more control over because of the trine to Pluto. So this is about looking at it not as, okay, I have to just go out and buy a business. Maybe it is that you can become their partner. Maybe you could even be a silent partner with a small investment. Maybe you can shadow them for a while to see if this is the business you want to buy. So and that's just one example. It's about thinking a little bit outside the box because you're not doing a direct aspect at this time. Okay, Aquarius, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of beliefs. It's also about education, long distance travel, legal matters, and it's making an opposition to Jupiter in your house of thinking process, paperwork, contracts, agreements, siblings, and neighbors. So lots of those things are very, very important during this 2-week period. But specifically, there's always this goal of knowing yourself. And, I think that sounds a little bit vague, but some of that is knowing what you want in the future. I run into a lot of clients who they just feel like they're so lost because they don't know what it is that they want to do. And I think that it's, unless you have Venus very early in your chart, you're not going to know what you want to do before you've done it. It's likely that if you have Venus later in your chart, you have to try something, do it, ask people, maybe even become good at something before you know if you like it. So this aspect that you're doing over the 2 weeks is much more of the explorer aspect. This is just go try something, go explore some possibilities. This is maybe take a full day and do nothing but videos and research on a topic and see what it actually leads to. Or take the whole 2 weeks and pick something and really lean into it and talk about it and discuss it with, maybe siblings, maybe with people that that are in your community, maybe with a teacher or mentor. Talk about these things and see, what are the upsides, what are the downsides, etc. But I think that, if you think you might be interested in something and they tell you all the downsides of it and you still want to do it, go do it. Because what this world has taught us, I think, is that, because of the internet, you can be successful at so many different things now. It used to be that there was such a limited way for people to make it and find an audience. But nowadays, anybody can find an audience. And so this is go explore. That's the energy here. Now, Mercury is retrograde and it's back in your house of resources. That means you have more resources than you are thinking you do. Resources include not just money, but people who are knowledgeable about things. That is, that you have a nephew and they can build a website for you, or that you have access to a broker who has classes that can teach you about investing. There's some resources available to you, and it's time to go back and explore what they are because of that retrograde Mercury. Now, when it comes to relationships, specifically new love, Uranus isn't making an aspect with Mercury. You do have Mars there, though. So when this aspect does line up outside this 2-week period, you're going to have rocket fuel. I mean, it's going to be really good. Right now, your attention is elsewhere, and so this might be a time where you're looking more for a mentor or somebody to provide you resources versus a love relationship. So focusing on that is good. You do have the new moon in your house of contracts. So there may be something where friends are getting married or you're hearing about weddings a lot. And so that can cause you to feel like, oh, I have to rush into this. And because you have Mars there, that gives some extra energy. But if you are feeling like, nope, I want to focus on something else, by all means, that's the better choice right now. Just focus on things of self-discovery and discovering things that you want to do. And as you do that, then you could meet someone and you'll probably get together outside. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the sun's making a sesquiquadrate to Uranus. A sesquiquadrate's a very interesting aspect because it combines a semi-square with a square. Both aspects demand action, but the semi-square says that there's something that's irritating or outside your comfort zone. And so this is about the two of you coming together to do something difficult. And so try to come together as a team to do this difficult thing, whether you're trying to build some really difficult piece of furniture or, trying to do some sort of home renovations and struggling with that, or dealing with, a family member and their situation. But try to come together and find where you can work together versus using that sesquiquadrant on each other, where you might kind of feel like a little battle is going on because you're both irritated about something, probably not even related to your relationship, but just, irritated by the outside world, but then taking it out on each other. So be careful about that. Instead, use this energy to work together to fight a common foe. Now, when it comes to home and family, Venus is not making an aspect to Uranus. However, Venus is in Taurus, which is ruled by that Uranus. So we've got some energy here, but because it's not making an aspect, it can feel like there's a little disconnect. So you might be trying to refinance your mortgage, or, maybe feeling that your mortgage is too high, and so trying to find some other ways of gaining resources, but things aren't really lining up. And so part of this is just because Mercury is retrograde also, just wait a little bit, explore it further before moving forward. If this is some sort of emergency, of course you will have to move forward, but recognize you are going into something that's rather challenging, and you don't have the aspects to make that connection. So you have to kind of say, hey, I'm here. That means calling people more often, trying to be a little nicer to them, make their day so that then they want to call you back. And so, but for the most part, this means that a lot of the things that are happening at home are just you observing them rather than them happening to you. So you might watch your kids fight, or your kids struggle with their schoolwork, or things like that. And but this is, in general, going to be more about looking at what you can change, what you can affect. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Neptune in your house of money, which you've been doing, of course, for a long, long time, and you'll continue to do for some time, but also Jupiter, which is part of this new moon. So you have new opportunities coming in for finances. And this is great because this is a time where you can plant some seeds and have these things grow into a real harvest for you. And so look for new opportunities. You might get the information, and so you're starting to work with this, or somebody comes to you and says, I have an opportunity and I need your help. So we're seeing some good money opportunities coming for you in these 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, you're doing some good energy here because Mercury is making an opposition to that Neptune, and Mercury is going back to conjunct Venus. So this is some sort of payday coming to you. And it's possible that your investments are stronger now, and maybe it's time to reallocate those funds for some reason. So you might take some profits and do some diversification, or you have some clients who are coming back into your life. Maybe they haven't bought from you for a while, and so now they're back and they're bringing friends. So this is some very good energy for your career, for your business. We'll get to your career in a second. Okay, now, money derived from your career, which is like a paycheck. The Jupiter and Neptune have not come together yet, so this is something you keep hearing me say. They are going to come together. It's just not here yet. So if you are rethinking your career because of this, you might want to look at what other perks you can get, because there is such strong energy in your house of resources right now. But if you can hang on, if this is a career that you like, if you are getting some money, but they keep saying, nope, there's a freeze on wage increases, or there's no new positions for you to go into right now, just keep going, because this is going to line up in the future. And then finally, when we look at risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. That Mercury is making that opposition to Neptune. So that is that the two of you, whatever the outside world is, whether that's the person selling the business or selling the investment or your audience for your album, the two of you now have some common ground, and you can come closer and have a meeting of the minds. And so this is a time where maybe you want to reach out to the franchise holder and say, let's sit down and talk about this. Of course, Mercury is still retrograde. It's hard to get into something new or launch something during a retrograde Mercury because it's, you see it all the time during Mercury retrograde. So many times people send me their email newsletter and then, 2 hours later they send me, oh, here's the corrections. And so you don't want to do that on a very big project. But Mercury goes direct on October 2nd. So within this 2-week period, you still have time, if you want, to move something forward. But right now, the energy is quite good. Now, here's my caveat that I always tell you. This is your area of risky investments, and that means that this can't be money that you're counting on in the future. You are rolling the dice here, and so this is the money that you can afford to lose. If you don't have that type of money, then that money goes into traditional investments, whatever form those take, which, there's so many different types of traditional investments, or doing investments in a very traditional manner, which would be kind of like dollar cost averaging, or where you are doing something for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. That's more traditional. So be cautious, but you are doing some good energy, and so I think that you can have some real benefits through your area of risky investments. Okay, Pisces, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of resources. This is resources of all kinds. That is people who can help you as well as money. And it's making an opposition to Jupiter in your house of money. So this could be a very strong money-making time for you. Now, the interesting thing about Jupiter is Jupiter expands things. And so this is money received, but also money going out. So you do need to be careful about any cavalier spending of like throwing money around or feeling like that you have more money than usual. And so you want, like you're trying to put it out there in the world as fast as possible. That's not necessary. Consider that new moon in your house of investments might bring you some opportunities that could make you much more money in the long run. So this is a great combination for making money. It's also very strong for spending money, so be a little cautious about that. This is also a time where you do want to look at your resources from the standpoint of a gratitude place, because as you do, your life, it just expands in general. There are more and more opportunities that come to you. And so you might want to start a gratitude journal. You might just want to go around the house and say, wow, look how abundant I am. You might want to think about what you've had in the past and how, even when you've lost something better has come along. So by focusing on that sense of gratitude, then good opportunities expand. So Mercury is still retrograde and it's gone back into your house of relationships, and this bodes well for meeting new people, friendships as well as love relationships, and connecting with people who can help you, such as mentors or collaborators. And so there are some real opportunities. Maybe you were close to making a connection with someone before, and now that Mercury is back, so you can do that. Or maybe you've lost touch with someone from your past. This is a time to reach out to them. This is a great time to reconnect with people that you knew in college or that you knew in a previous job, or maybe a neighbor you had before. So this is a time to kind of bring your tribe together. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Neptune's not making an aspect with the moon. However, the moon is in your house of intimacy. And so if you are just looking for a physical relationship, you could find one. If you're looking for something more long-term, then it is best to meet the person outside this 2-week period. So you could start talking to them, texting them, emailing back and forth, but you want to have your first meeting outside the 2-week period. And if you can't wait, certainly outside the retrograde. Yeah, because if this person's brand new, then the retrograde energy could just bring somebody who reminds you of a past relationship, and that might not be the best for you. So this is mostly, I see your focus is elsewhere, but if you are really wanting to meet someone new, realize this could be a very short and very physical relationship. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Mercury is making an opposition to Neptune, and that's two people, on the opposite sides of the seesaw who, like it's drama and, excitement, but it gets better when you find the common ground, when you scoot in and meet in the middle, then the drama goes away. And so this is all about finding the common ground. So, and I don't really know sports so much, but like if you like two different sports teams and their rivals, I think that you could see your common ground is that you both love football or whatever sport it is. And so talk about the ins and outs of football rather than the rivalry of the teams. And so in whatever it is that you're trying to do, as you get closer to this person, find the common ground. And that's going to be that point where the seesaw, where you are not going through the highs and lows of the relationship, but you feel steady. Now, when it comes to home and family, of course, you're still doing that same Mercury opposed Neptune. Mars is there, and Mars is in Gemini, ruled by that Mercury. So now it's more people that you're dealing with. So we'll like multiple seesaws going back and forth. And so this is finding what you have in common with your kids, finding what you have in common with parents if you are in a multi-generational household. So looking at where compromise can happen. Maybe your kid doesn't want to take out the trash at this moment, but maybe you can compromise and find a time when they always take out the trash. That's the time it's done. And so therefore you're not stressed about it. They're not stressed about it. I don't know, some example. It's maybe it doesn't work on teenagers. You guys can let me know in the comments. But it is that if you can find a way that works for everyone, that's what you're looking for. And so we have a little bit more energy right now in home and family because the Mars is there. Mars is going to be there until next March. So that energy, I'm going to keep talking about that increased energy. That can mean it's time to declutter the house or finish renovations, or maybe it's time to get ready to move. This move could happen anytime between now and next March, so it's not something maybe that's so immediate, but it still takes some preparation. Speaking of Mars, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Mars, which is at the base of your chart, which on a very basic level, it means looking at your foundations and what you have to build on. So that is, what are your basic skills? What do you know how to do? And then also looking at how family can support you. And that can be anything from the actual family to the people that you live with. It may or may not be blood relations. So now this Mars is making a trine to Saturn, and Saturn is in your house of psychic ability and intuition. And so this is about honing some of your abilities in a very structured way, or bringing in that magical spiritual quality to help you with your money. And that can mean that you are doing regular rituals or prayers or meditations or affirmations for money. And so before you get on the phone with the client, you're visualizing how the meeting will go. Before you start your workday, maybe you were lighting a candle and saying a prayer. Maybe you're doing the feng shui of, placing your lucky money cat, setting up your office so you're in the power position. Looking at, sweeping off your porch, shaking out your welcome mat to bring in new opportunities. So this Mars is right now making that trine, which says that you have the capacity to bring in a lot of money, but it needs to be done in a disciplined, sort of structured fashion. Now, when it comes to traditional investments and money from your business, you have the new moon there. So even though Mars is not making an aspect with Venus, there is something new happening. This might mean that some product that you launched is now starting to happen, or that new seeds of new clients are starting to bring new clients. Maybe something you invested in is starting to inch its way up. And so you're seeing that, what's going to need more attention on your parts so that you can then have a big harvest in the future. But you are seeing new sprouts, new opportunities for money and profits. So I think you're going to make a little bit more over this next 2 weeks, and it's setting the stage for making a lot more later. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, so like a paycheck, that Mars is making that trine to Saturn, just what we were talking about. This is your opportunity to ask for the raise. You have a solid reason for it. The company is doing better. You should do that research and know if your company is doing better. But if the company is doing better, you can cite that. Is your department doing better? Are you more productive? Are you getting more done in less time? Are you giving them all the reasons to give you a raise? And if for some reason they say no, then no, with this energy, you could find another job that pays you much better. So this is your opportunity to get more money. It's very strong right now, so you want to use it. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Mars is not making an aspect to the moon. This means that right now, while you do have the new moon in your house of resources, and you have Mercury going back into house of relationships, and all of this can bring you opportunities, it's not yet time maybe to launch or to sign or to get this started. If this is something that exists already, it may be difficult to get profits from it now. It might not have grown enough. It may not be mature enough. The timing just could be off. So be careful when it comes to your risky investments. I mean, be careful anyway, even when it lines up, because mostly though, right now it's not lining up. So I see you gathering resources. I see you getting more and more connections and the information that you need, but it's not time yet for the profits. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe and stay tuned because LaRue wants to say hi.